Fight fans, welcome to the PBC Podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Bouhairie and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome everyone to the PBC Podcast. I'm Kenneth Bouhairie.
I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
Thanks as always for tuning in. For our new listeners, welcome to our show. This week, David Benavidez and Robert Guerrero will be joining us. Plus, on Toe to Toe, Mike and I will list 3 potential breakout candidates for 2024. And of course, we'll analyze this weekend's upcoming fights. But first, Mike, some big news dropped last week. Everyone, well, most people are excited. Real boxing fans are to the moon. Prime Video and Premier Boxing Champions announcing a landmark multi-year rights agreement. This agreement includes pay-per-view events, PBC Championship Boxing Series on Prime, behind the series, docu-series, live weigh-ins, archives of old fights, access to whatever previous events, highlights, and so forth. I mean, just everything. What does this mean for the sport of boxing?
Well, Showtime and other premium networks are rooted in the past, but you can stream their content, meaning Showtime really is cutting edge, as much cutting edge as anybody else, any streaming service. And one could purchase pay-per-view events whether or not you subscribe to Showtime. I think the difference between Showtime and Prime Video is their reach. Showtime has, I just did a quick look. Showtime has around 46 million subscribers, give or take. Amazon Prime around 200 million. So I presume that means that potentially more eyes will have access to big-time boxing, which has to be good for the sport. I have to say that old school fans will probably have to adjust to the change, but they will. They always do. People adapt. They'll find their boxing. So, it's really interesting.
Yeah, and the reach, as you mentioned, is just tremendous, and the opportunity for growth for the sport truly is exciting. And speaking of exciting, what about this excitement? What about this announcement excites you the most?
I'm most excited that I could now write off my Amazon Prime membership on my taxes. The second thing, that was delayed laughter. Actually,
delayed reaction.
I can. It did cross my mind. The second thing I'm most excited about, I don't know. I like the fact that more people will have access to the boxing shows. And I really like the fact that boxing is following in the footsteps of the NFL, which made a big splash when it announced it would have games on Amazon for the first time this season. I think that's really good company. Just to be honest, though, and I should throw this out there, it saddens me that Showtime will no longer be broadcasting boxing, just like it did with HBO. They've done a great job for so long, and I'll miss a lot of people over there. At the same time, PBC obviously is in really good hands at Amazon. So just in general, I'm excited about moving forward.
Yeah, I just want to see what it all looks like, the production, everything, the matchups. I have a very good feeling about 2024, as I did 2023. I think these great events and terrific fights might become the norm for fight fans. And speaking of terrific cards, let's jump right into the PBC Fight of the Week. This Saturday, December 16th, Premier Boxing Champions returns to the Armory in Minneapolis with one stacked card in the final edition of Showtime Championship Boxing. And in the main event, David Morrell Jr., one of the rising stars in the sport, defends his WBA 168-pound title against the hard-hitting Sena Agbeko of Ghana in a 12-round super middleweight action. The televised card begins at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and we begin here with the essentials.
Okay, here we go. Morrell 9-0, 8 knockouts. Agbeko 28-2, 22 knockouts. Obviously, Morrell is 5-0 in his last 5. All 5 have come by knockout. Agbeko is also 5-0 in his last 5, 4 KOs. Last fight for Morrell, Yamaguchi Falcao, KO1, April 22nd of this year. Agbeko stopped Bruno Romé in 2 rounds on October 14th of this year, so very recently. Morrell's knockout percentage is 89%, Agbeko's 79%. Morrell has fought 40 professional rounds, Agbeko 133. Morrell is 25, Agbeko 31. Morrell turned pro 2019, Agbeko 2011. Morrell is southpaw. Agbeko fights from an orthodox stance. The dimensions are interesting. They're almost the same height. Morrell is 6'1", Agbeko 6 feet, but Morrell has a 78.5-inch reach compared to 74.5 for which is more normal for Agbeko. Morrell now lives in West Palm Beach, Florida. He's from Cuba, obviously. You mentioned that Agbeko's from Ghana. He lives in Nashville last time I checked, and those are the essentials.
Yeah, it's interesting. You would think that, based on that, Agbeko has significantly more experience than Morrell, but obviously we know that Morrell has a tremendous amateur background, and a lot of people consider him to be sort of the boogeyman at super middleweight. In your opinion, what makes Morrell so good?
Yeah, that's the perfect word for him. And maybe it's used a lot, but I think for him, that's the perfect word. I see him as elite in just every department. He was born with special natural gifts. He's got speed, athleticism, natural power. He can box, which is a product of growing up in that Cuban amateur system. You mentioned his amateur background. He's a really, really successful youth boxer in Cuba. He seems to have a really high ring IQ and poise beyond his years. You'd never know that he's only had 9 pro fights. And again, he also has, punching power in both hands. He can make you look like an amateur with his ability, but he could also knock you out with one punch. So that's a really dangerous combination.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the division is a pretty stacked one. Where do you rank him among 168-pounders today?
Okay, so I'll be very specific. I rank him number 3 at the moment, behind
Wow.
Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez. I think that has to be the order right now because Canelo and Benavidez, are proven commodities. That said, Morrell might be better than either one of them. I mean, we just don't know for sure. The eye test tells me that he's the most complete fighter in the division. I can't say that with certainty until I see him against the next level opponent, though. So
Sure.
we just have to wait and see. But I think I've seen enough of Morrell to know that he's tucked right there behind Alvarez and Benavidez at the moment.
Yeah, and obviously he's got to be good, hence the boogeyman tag. And he goes up against Agbeko. What can you tell us about him? Is he next level? Where does he rank among Morrell's opponents?
I think Agbeko's a limited technician, if you will. As we saw when he lost a one-sided decision to Vladimir Shishkin. To be fair, going into that fight, Agbeko was coming off his fight with Roy King, who died from his injuries in their fight. You never know how a fighter is going to react to that. That's difficult to transition into your next fight. And Agbeko hadn't fought for 13 months. Anyway, I still think Agbeko's strengths are his speed, his athleticism, and his explosiveness. You mentioned, we were talking about him a little bit off the podcast. He's got a big right hand, so he's got power. So that's what he brings into the ring.
What do you think are his keys to victory?
Well, he's not going to outbox Morrell. Agbeko is going to have to find a way to land that right hand consistently, maybe hurt Morrell. That's the only thing that he can do to get Morrell's respect and throw him off his game, I think, in my opinion. Agbeko also has to make sure he doesn't get reckless. He could pay a big price if he attacks Morrell face first. So yes, he has a small window of victory, but I think the key for him is he's got to get that right hand in and knock Morrell off his game.
Yeah, that's going to be key for him. And do you see that happening? What's your prediction?
I do not see that happening. I think Morrell is just too good for Agbeko. He's going to outbox him. He's going to land more and more power shots as the fight progresses, gradually break Agbeko down. I think he's going to stop him in the second half of the fight.
Yeah, I like Morrell here. I'm going by decision, playing it safe. Agbeko's tough. He's durable. He's relentless. I expect him to try to make it, a dogfight, but ultimately come up short. I think a stoppage win by Morrell here would be quite impressive and certainly not out the realm of possibility given what he has shown us so far. Now, in the co-main event, we've got a high-stakes, bad blood rematch that I absolutely cannot wait for. Chris Colbert takes on Jose Valenzuela in a WBA 12-round lightweight title eliminator. Colbert won a hotly contested, razor-thin decision over Valenzuela in March. Mike, first, how did you score that first fight?
I had it 96-93 for Valenzuela, 6 rounds to 4. The judges had it the other way around. I thought Colbert bounced back from going down in the first round, by boxing well, the rest of the way. He jabbed well. He landed combinations pretty consistently after the first round. I just thought Valenzuela continued to land a lot of power shots as the fight progressed, enough to win the fight, in my opinion. I was surprised, not radically surprised, but I was surprised when I heard the decision.
Yeah, it was, one of those fights. I don't score fights when I first watch it. When I was there live, I was just enjoying the fight, but I knew it was going to be pretty close after the 10th round. What can Colbert do, for a more definitive win?
I think it goes back to the fact that he took too many power shots. I guess this is a strange thing to say about a good technician like Colbert, but he needs to be more defensive minded. Jab, throw your combinations like he did, get in and out, be more mindful of what's coming back. If he boxes carefully, I think he could win this fight clearly.
What about Valenzuela? What can he do to reverse the outcome?
I had Valenzuela winning, so I don't think he needs to do much more. Just keep the pressure on Colbert. That doesn't mean he should chase him around. Be patient, be methodical, but don't give Colbert room to breathe. And Colbert won the final. I noticed that Colbert won the final 2 rounds on 2 of the 3 cards in the fight, which gave him the victory. Valenzuela has to finish stronger this time. He can't let up. He's got to keep that pressure on.
Yeah, it looked like he certainly slowed down a bit in the later rounds. What does a win here mean for both guys?
A lot. Colbert is coming off a loss to Hector Luis Garcia, and then a controversial win over Valenzuela. So he needs a convincing win to truly get back on track, I think, in my opinion. If he does that, I think he's firmly back in the title picture. For Valenzuela, like it or not, he's coming off a loss, and he was stopped by Edwin De Los Santos before that fight. He can't afford another setback. He might be. It's going to be difficult for him to climb back if he loses this fight. So I think a victory is essential if he wants to remain a major player. So this is, again, big fight for both guys.
Yeah, high stakes for sure. Who are you picking?
This is one of the really tough ones. I can make strong cases, I think, for both guys. I thought about going with Colbert because of his boxing ability, but I think Valenzuela is going to be able to do what he did in the first fight. And this time he's going to be rewarded for it. At least I hope so. I think, I'm not saying I hope he wins, but I hope if he does do what it takes to win, that he gets the decision that he earned. I think Valenzuela wins a close decision.
Interesting. I like Colbert in this fight. He's had a pretty serious camp. I saw him training down in Maryland. I think at certain points he was training with Gervonta Davis. I think he's taken this fight incredibly serious. Not to say that Valenzuela is not, but I just have a feeling about this fight. I like Colbert to win a close but clear decision in this rematch. Now, we move on to the next bout on this card. Julio Cesar Martinez defending his WBC flyweight title against Angelino Cordova. Mike, what can you tell us about Martinez?
Martinez is one of the top little fighters in the world, although he looked, somewhat vulnerable in his last 2 fights. Last year, he moved up in weight to fight Chocolatito Gonzalez, which predictably didn't turn out well. I admire his courage, but it just didn't pan out. He also looked flat in the first half of his fight against Samuel Carmona, his last fight, although he took control in the second half and, won the fight going away. Martinez isn't a great technician, but he's a really, really good all-around fighter, fierce guy with power, good fighter.
Yeah, I agree. And certainly looking forward to him, an exciting fighter. Yet, quite a few people, I've seen quite a few people picking an upset here. What makes Cordova a threat?
I haven't seen too much of him, but from what I've seen, he's a well-schooled boxer. As we saw in his last fight, he won a decision over a pretty good fighter in Angel Acosta in April. I don't think he has a ton of power, but I think he also has pretty good all-around skills. I have to mention, though, that this is a big step up in opposition for him. Acosta's pretty good, but he's not Martinez. So we're going to really see what Cordova has in this fight.
Yeah, I agree. I assume you're picking Martinez then.
Yeah, I think Martinez is just too explosive for Cordova. Martinez might need some time to figure him out, but he's going to get to him, I think. I see Martinez wearing Cordova down and either stopping him late or winning a clear decision.
Yeah, I'm going to play it safe here. I'm going with Martinez by close decision as well, and probably the best action of the night. Let's move on to the televised opener, a rematch that has been years and years and years in the making. Two welterweight strongmen looking to make one last run at greatness, but one of them will have to head to the sidelines if they don't win here. Robert Guerrero versus Andre Berto, the rematch, 10 rounds in a welterweight bout. Mike, these two guys first fought back in 2012, with Guerrero winning by unanimous decision. What can you tell us about that first fight?
I wonder what the biggest gap is from the first fight to a rematch.
Right.
11 years is a long time.
What about Roy Jones and Bernard Hopkins?
Yeah, we'd have to go look.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been some that are longer than that, but 11 years is a long time. When I think of that fight, it was just a brutal fight. It was fought on the inside almost the whole way. When it was over, 3 of their collective 4 eyes were swollen shut. So that gives you an idea how brutal the fight was. Guerrero put Berto down twice and deserved the nod, but it was a taxing war of attrition for both guys. Both guys just had so much heart. They had a lot of heart in that fight. They just have a lot of heart in general. And a side note, that victory earned Guerrero a fight with Floyd Mayweather 5+ months later. That fight didn't go quite as well for him.
Yeah. But, no question, these are 2 of the most exciting fighters of their era. What made Guerrero such a good fighter?
I think people might forget how good Guerrero was at the lower weights, between 126 and I guess up to 140. He was an excellent boxer. He had heavy hands. He was super resilient his whole career. He was a 2-division title holder at 26 and 30. He beat guys like Yoel Casamayor and Michael Katsidas and then Berto when he moved up in weight. He wasn't as good above 140. That was just too much above his natural weight, in my opinion. But he gave everything he had in every fight, which made him appealing until the present time. Go back and watch his fight with Yoshihiro Kamagai in 2014. You won't regret it. One of the craziest wars I've ever seen in person. I just couldn't have more respect for this guy, and I feel lucky that I was around for a lot of his career.
Yeah, he's given us a lot of great memories, and so is Berto. In your opinion, what makes him such a good fighter?
I just loved watching Berto. He was an aggressive, offensive-minded kind of fighter. Either won decisions by outworking you or knocking you out. He took a lot of punches, but that's part of what made him so entertaining. It just was who he was. And he had some important victories. He was probably at his peak in the late 2000s and early 2010s when he beat these guys in succession: Steve Forbes, Luis Colazo, Juan Urango, Carlos Quintana, and Freddie Hernandez. All good fighters, beat him all in a row. That was an impressive run for him. I just also love this guy a lot.
Yeah, good dude in and out of the ring. But we got to make a pick. Who are you going with?
Berto called for a rematch after the first fight. I'm going to guess he didn't think it would take 11 years for it to happen. I have no idea how to predict the winner in this one. They're both 40 years old. Neither's been active. Berto hasn't fought in 5 years. Guerrero in around 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years, I think. I'm going to go with Guerrero because he fought more recently. He looked pretty good against Victor Ortiz in his last fight. So I'm just gonna say let's go with Guerrero by a close decision.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And because he's been more active, which isn't saying much, but I think that's going to be the difference. I like him. I don't foresee a knockout here. I like Ghost by clear decision in another really, really good fight. I think both these guys leave it all on the line. And speaking of the Ghost, let's bring him in now. He's won various titles through 4 divisions, and now he returns to the ring on Saturday night, as we just discussed, Robert Guerrero. Robert, how excited are you to get this fight on the calendar and to be back in the ring?
I'm super excited to lock this one in. I can't wait. The one thing is, I think we were supposed to fight. Well, we were supposed to fight like 2 weeks ago on that Benavidez Andrade. So we were supposed to be on the undercard of that, and then it got moved to this weekend coming. So I'm excited. Just a little more time, just being patient and being ready to go.
Did that affect your preparation at all? The switch? Did you have to change anything?
No, not at all. What I did was I toned back the sparring a little bit as soon as I found out that it wasn't going to happen that day. So I toned back the sparring a bit. and slowed it up a bit, and then let a week go by and then ramped it back up.
But this is, I mean, you've had what I would say 2 fights the past 4 years or so. What made you come back for this one?
Just excited to do the rematch with Berto. I know he's been it's been on his mind. I know it's been coming for a while, especially when he announced that he's trying to get all his losses back. I know I'm one of those losses that he really wants to get back, because it was a brutal loss for him, and I know a lot of times fighters, that it hurts their ego knowing that they took that type of punishment from a guy and then never got to get nothing back.
Robert, is this a one-off, or does that sort of depend on how you feel in the fight?
Yeah, it depends on how I feel. It's the same thing with the Ortiz fight. Seeing how I felt in the ring and getting back in, with Ortiz, felt it out, boxed him, moved around, felt great, and came out of there clean. So I was looking forward to fighting pretty soon right after that, but it didn't happen. Everything slows down in boxing, since that last fight. So yeah, I'm excited to get back in, though. I'm excited and see how this fight goes and how I feel, and keep working from there.
So there's no specific reason why you didn't fight like right after the Ortiz fight? It's just like it happens in boxing kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of young fighters, dates, stuff like that. Limited dates, and there's, like I said, there's a lot of young fighters out there right now that are coming up, and I understand they get priority over the older guys. So just stayed in shape, though. Stayed in shape, doing what I had to do, and just kept on just chomping at the bit every day in the gym.
So speaking of young guys, so I had the privilege of covering a lot of your fights when you were in your early 20s and your mid 20s. Now you're 40 years old, and so much has happened in between. Has the time flown by for you like it has for me?
Yeah, it flew by really quick. My son's going to be 17 next year. I have an 18-year-old daughter already, so it's like, wow. But yeah, my son, Robert Jr., he's been training and he's looking forward to turning professional next year. So time really flew by. I remember I was out in Denmark fighting for the IBF championship of the world at 130 pounds, or actually at featherweight at 126 pounds. And he was being born at that time. The day of the fight, he was being born. So, yeah, time flies.
That must be cool. Yeah, your son's about to turn pro and you're still fighting. It must be really cool for you, and it must be really cool for him to be able to watch you.
Oh, definitely. He was out in Las Vegas with me for the last training camp for this training camp for the fight. And then he was able to be there with me for the Ortiz training camp. So being able to see it and experience it and see what goes on, how hard you got to work, the sacrifice, the grind, the everything that comes along with being a professional fighter, being able to experience it firsthand. I mean, it's great. This last time we were out at Mount Charleston out there in Las Vegas, up in the mountains every single day. And he was like, man, this is tough, but I like it. So, it's good to hear that, from a young kid like that. Most of them just want to stay home, play video games, or do something else.
Awesome.
I want to stay home and play video games even now. You've given us a lot of great fights, a lot of wars. How do you feel physically?
I feel great physically, just taking care of myself all the time. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't party, I don't do none of that. I'm a family guy. I live out on a ranch. I mean, I work a ranch every single day. And, from ranch to gym, I mean, when you live on a ranch, it's like a full-time job. You got fences you got to fix. You got all this other stuff. You got well problems you got to work on. All the animals you got to maintenance and take care of. And you actually turn into almost like a little vet, learning how to take care of the animals and stuff. So, it keeps you busy, keeps you on top of everything, keeps you in shape. And then also, too, I help out the amateur kids in the gym and my son, and just always on the go, moving and taking care of myself. So, man, I mean, I feel great. I feel real good. And, I feel oiled and fine tuned, ready to go.
Did you have a full camp for this? Like, it sounds like you were in shape whenever you started your camp.
Yeah, I was in great shape. What I do is like when I'm training and I work out and stuff like that, and I ain't got to fight, it's pretty much maintaining. I eat good, I run, I take days off, I run, I work out to how I feel. And that's so if something does come up, I'm ready to just ramp it up. And, I had a month and a half in Las Vegas training out there, and I have a full training camp out there in Las Vegas that I've had for a few years. So I was able to dust it off and go to work.
You mentioned your ranch. I'm just curious. Are you still in the garlic capital of the world, Gilroy, California?
I'm actually, I live on the outskirts of it, of Gilroy. I'm about like 15 minutes out of Gilroy, a little town called San Juan Bautista, Mission Town. So I don't smell the garlic. So, it's kind of far away.
I get it. Okay. So you mentioned, why Berto wanted to fight you, but obviously you wanted to fight Berto. Why was that?
Just love of the game. Berto's a great challenge. I know he's coming to fight. Like I said, he's wanting, like he says, get backs, and he's coming ready to go. So I know he's going to be ready. So I'm excited. I know he was in Las Vegas training for the last few months also too. And, man, I'm excited. I'm excited because it's going to be a fight.
Very good. What do you think of when you think back on your first fight with Berto? I remember a war.
That's what I had on my mind was, let's go to war. Kind of had a chip on my shoulder. That's when I just got to 147 pounds, and I moved up from 135 and jumped the 2 weight classes. So everybody was saying I was crazy and I was a small guy. And then Berto was actually a big guy at the weight division, strong guy. And I just kind of felt like I was disrespected by him, like I was nothing. He was going to walk through me. And so I had a chip on my shoulder and wanted to go out there and just punish him. And that's the one thing I told him. I go, hey, man, I'm going to beat you for 12 rounds. And that's what I did. I mean, we just went head up 12 rounds, and, I got the job done. So I really feel by doing that to Berto, it kind of backfired on me, as far as once I did that to Berto, big, strong guy, 147, full-fledged, hard puncher, fast. I thought I was just going to mow anybody down. And that's when I started banging a lot with guys and trying to walk them down and bang them out, and kind of flipped my mind a little bit, which, coming up from the lighter weights, I was more of a boxer puncher, behind a jab, nice left hands, hooks, everything in boxing. So it kind of threw me into that. I got this. I could walk guys down. That machismo, Mexican warrior. Let's go. So, I mean, the fans loved it. My wife hated it. She still does hate it. So, and the kids. So they're like, hey, you need to keep your hands up. Use your jab.
That's really interesting. You were a different fighter. You know what fight I'm thinking of is the Kamagai fight. That was an absolute freaking war. That was a crazy fight.
Oh yeah, that was a war too. When I fought Kamagai, I don't know, but I think there is something with that arena there, that tennis arena, where just that atmosphere, everybody just wants to brawl it out. And it's one of those spots that it's iconic for just wars.
That was a war.
But, it's interesting that you say that, because now I'm wondering what kind of fight should we expect from you and Andre on Saturday night then? Are you thinking that you'll probably box, or knowing you and Andre, is it, likely going to be another war?
Well, for sure. He's been out of the ring for 5 years, so I'm going to test him. I know he's been out for a while, and, you get hit with the 10-ounce glove, no headgear. We're gonna test him. So it's we're coming for war. I mean, I know he's up there in age too, and let's go till the wheels fall off.
This is obviously a historic night too with Showtime, the last Showtime Championship boxing event. How do you feel about that? And how do you feel about taking part in it?
I'm excited about that. At first I was kind of bummed out, like, oh man, we're not going to be on the pay-per-view. Oh man, that's going to be great. But then, you hear it's the last Showtime that they're going to show. So you're like, oh man, that's even better. Cause we get to close out the show, and, it's going to be one of those memorable nights, the last Showtime card, and it's an honor to be on it, and especially with Berto, somebody that we already have history together, and everybody's seen the first fight. So I mean, I didn't come out of that fight clean either. I came out with some damage too. So it was a war.
So again, you accomplished so much in your boxing career. What do you have a most gratifying victory in your career?
Nah, not really. It was I just have to say just the whole career, everything, all the fights, everybody I've fought, everybody I've been in the ring with, you appreciate it all. When you're a little younger, you're like, oh, this was the fight, this was the one. As you get towards that you get to the tail end of your career, it's like, man, you just appreciate the career and what you did in boxing and who you've been in with, and you give everybody that respect.
Well, we've appreciated you. Well, maybe I could ask you sort of the opposite question. So when you look back, is there any fight where you go, damn, I could have done better in that fight?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. The Danny Garcia fight, the Keith Thurman fight. I know with the Danny Garcia fight, I went out to a great start, and then halfway through the fight, I got bored. And then I said, hey, let's go to war, and let's make it happen. And, he just went on his bike and started pop shotting and picking and poking and moving and tying me up. And, that's how he edged out the fight, was, being smart in the ring. Where me, I got bored of the first couple of rounds where, I was boxing behind a jab and I was catching him with shots. And then I just flipped out and said, let's go. And, that's where I, stick to the game plan and do what you got to do and get the win. And then also too, the Keith Thurman fight, I got a really late start in that fight. I never told people this, but when I fought Keith Thurman, I had the flu. So I was all hopped up on Theraflu. So like the first 4 or 5 rounds, my body was a little achy and I was just going through the motions. If you watch it, I'm walking him down and getting in there, and he's boxing beautiful. And then he puts me down in the 5th round, and I'm like, man, I've already lost all first 5 rounds, and then it's a 2-point round on him. I'm like, I got to step on the gas. So I just pedaled to the metal and just started chasing him down. But, a lot of these fights, I mean, I could have used my jab a lot more, and especially being a lefty and having good footwork, quick feet, and get in there and in and out. But, that being said, you got to be smart.
You won titles in multiple divisions. You were a fan favorite. Pretty impressive. Are you happy with your accomplishments?
Oh, definitely. I'm happy with the accomplishments. Now I'm just seeing how far I can go.
Well, it kind of leads me to my next question, but what do you attribute your longevity to?
I just got to play it by ear, 40 years old already. I don't feel like I'm 40 years old. I feel like I'm like maybe 35. I feel great. And, just keep working and going how my body feels. And, there comes that point of time where, you're just like, oh, nah, all right, enough's enough.
I'm guessing that you're a boxing fan too. Are there fighters, do you have your favorite fighters to watch today?
Oh, I like to watch all the fighters. Watching that Devin Haney fight this weekend was incredible. I mean, he looked amazing.
Yeah, he did.
I think 140 pounds fits him just right. Yeah, I mean, all the big fights, Crawford, Spence, all those guys, I like to watch them. Teofimo Lopez, he's really, really entertaining. He's a real entertainer. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of fighters out there. I used to like watching, well, I do like watching him, that Sebastian Fundora, the Tower Inferno. To see a guy that big bang on the inside, it's pretty, kind of reminds me of Paul Williams a bit.
Right.
Paul Williams used to be a big guy. He used to bang it out on the inside and just mow guys down. That's how Sebastian used to remind me. Just too bad his last fight he got caught with a good shot.
Yeah, he did. So your fighters are a lot of the guys that we like too. So you've been around for a couple of decades, I think. In your opinion, how has the sport changed, or maybe one or two things that have changed about the sport between the time you started and now?
I you know, I really think that it's starting to shift more towards boxing back again. Everybody was always looking for, that Tank Davis type of knockout like that. Or, just big punch knockout. And I really think it's starting to shift back more to the sweet science. You got guys like Haney, who are incredible behind a jab, and they're bringing that old school boxing behind a jab back and keeping that distance. And so I really think it's starting to shift more back to clean boxing instead of just, let's see this guy, one hitter quitter, knock a guy out. People want to see more of that MMA style, ground and pound type of fight.
That's interesting. Okay, finally, we alluded to this earlier. You alluded to this. If you win, if you look good, you feel good. Is there anybody you would like to face next?
Man, just the best opportunity that comes. So
nobody in particular.
No, nobody in particular. Just I'd like to jump in with Spence. 147 pounds.
He's going to hear about that.
Yeah, I mean that'd be great. Everybody knows me. I'm looking to fight the best guys, and that's what I'm going to look for. Is the best fights, the best possibly fights, the best shows, and make it happen.
Perfect way to end this. Robert, it's so good to catch up with you and good to see you, and best of luck in this fight and going forward.
Thank you.
It's time for Mike and I to go toe-to-toe. This week, the topic is 3 PBC 2024 breakout candidates. Mike and I have our list ready to go, perhaps a surprise or two. So, Mike, why don't you set it off?
Real quick, I just want to preface this by saying that Ken and I had to talk about what breakout means for the purposes of this toe-to-toe. Is it a young guy looking for his first big win? Or is it a fighter, maybe on the precipice of stardom, taking that final step? I decided, and we decided that it could be either one of those or anything in between. So I just decided to go with the latter part, the fighter that's on the precipice of stardom. So I ended up with 3 established guys, starting with Subriel Matias. Matias has already made quite an impression, obviously. He won a major 140-pound title, and, I love this stat. He's forced each of his last 5 opponents to quit on their stools. That's scary stuff. Matias is being compared to countryman Felix Trinidad for a reason. He could box, he could hurt you with both hands, and he's just fierce as hell, just like Trinidad was. The only thing missing is a defining victory, and that could come next year, in what I think might be the deepest division in boxing. Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Raleigh Romero, Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis could move up. I can go on and on, at 140. He needs to fight and beat one of these guys to have his, quote unquote breakout. I think there's a decent chance he will have success when he reaches that level.
Yeah, and they need to get in the ring with him. I don't see a lot of guys in a rush to do that right now, given what he's shown, and he's such a strong fighter. At 140 pounds, so skilled. He brings everything to the table. He really is special. So, again, I'm not sure too many guys will get in the ring with him, but I have no doubt that if one of those elite big names are willing to do it, Subriel is going to shine. Now, my first choice is Elvis Rodriguez, the 140-pound contender. He's ranked number 10 by the IBF, number 6 by the WBO. So he's been climbing the rankings, but more importantly, you can see the improvement in the ring, working with Freddie Roach in a wild-card gym. And I think Rodriguez right now is red hard. He started off the year with the win over Joseph Ardono, where he dropped Ardono twice, but, I think he really showed something in his next fight when he returned in July and stopped Victor Postol in 7 rounds. And look, he's still only 27 years old. I'd love to see him against any of the top 140-pounders. Speaking of the 140-pound division, an Ergashev, a Ryan Garcia, maybe the winner of Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall, if that fight ever happens. But in my eyes, Elvis is ready. And I should note that, for my three choices, I try to choose guys at different levels in terms of where they're at in their career that are, maybe they're breaking through to world champion status or breaking through from champion to superstar status. One of those things. I try to choose three different levels for mine. But Elvis Rodriguez is my first choice.
I like that choice. I've always thought a lot of Elvis Rodriguez, although he's been a project. But I know Freddie's always thought a lot of Elvis too. So, and obviously he's in good hands with Freddie. The guy, he's a good boxer. He's got a lot of power. Look at his knockout percentage. And like you said, I think the victory over Postol was a big step for him. Postol's older now. Obviously he's near the end of his career, but I thought Postol, as long as the fight lasted, I thought he still looked like a competent fighter.
Yep.
And Rodriguez showed a lot of poise, a lot of patience, a lot of ability, and took him out. So I think that was a big step, and I think it was a big statement. So yeah, I expect a lot more from him in 2024.
All right, let's move on to our second choice. I'll start this one. Next on my list, anyway, is undefeated bantamweight Michael Angeletti. Now, Angeletti was the PBC Prospect of the Year in 2022. He's enjoyed an excellent 2023 thus far, 2 impressive wins, and he's back Saturday night for his third fight of the year. Angeletti is a gym rat. He fights like a boxer 10, 15 years into his pro career and not a prospect. So he's similar to David Morrell in that regard. I heard you mention that about Morrell. I mean, look, this guy may be a top 3 or top 5 118-pounder right now. That's how good the kid is. And so I'm looking forward to a big 2024 from him, and I think we see him in with some top names. One name I'd love to see him against is Gary Antonio Russell at some point.
Yeah, I think I've said on the podcast at least once that I really like this guy. The natural gifts, the speed and the athleticism. Obviously, he was blessed in that respect. You mentioned that he was a gym rat, so the guy works hard on top of everything else. So if you combine the natural gifts with the work ethic, you get a special fighter. Obviously, it's early for him, but I think he's definitely one of those guys to watch. He could really blossom in 2024.
For sure. Who's your next one?
So my next one is somebody, the brother of somebody you just mentioned, Gary Antoine Russell. I think Russell might be a superstar waiting to happen. To me, he seems to have it all. Again, the skill, the power, the IQ, the intensity. I love this guy's intensity. In other words, he's an excellent boxer with one-punch knockout power who loves to mix it up. That's a dangerous and really attractive combination. You have to love the 17 knockouts in 17 fights. That's always intriguing, right? Like Matias, though, he doesn't have that fight that will lift him to the next level. He has good wins, Postol also, Barthélemy, but he needs to face an elite guy to take the next step. I think this guy could be absolutely huge. We just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one thing I want to mention is his amateur pedigree. I mean, this is a guy who he beat Jerron Ennis, like 3 or 4 times in the amateurs. He's just that good. Other fighters have a great deal of respect for him. You've seen what he's done as a pro. Very impressive, and in his last fight, that Stay Busy fight, he looked just absolutely ridiculous, knocking out Ken Cruz in the first round. No doubt he's a future world champion. I'm really curious to see what his ceiling is. If he has one at all, I truly don't know. But he may end up being the best Russell of the bunch, and that's saying something, given the kind of fighters they produce. Let's move on to our next one, and I'll go ahead. I'll kick this one off, Mike. The last person on my list, he's the WBC interim 160 middleweight champion, Carlos Adames. Now, some people might feel this year was his breakout. He had the big knockout of Juan Macias Montiel, and then the stoppage win over Julian Williams. But I think we see Adames in a huge fight next year with a big name. Don't ask me who, because I don't know. But I think that's the next step for him. I'm looking forward to it. I think he's got all the skills. What's your take?
I think Adames is just a beast. I love his, he obviously knows what he's doing in the ring, but I just love his aggressiveness, and I love his power. It's really fun to watch, which I'll say, forever continue to say that that's something that's really important to me. Love watching this guy fight. And he was just an absolute beast against Julian Williams. I mean, I still have respect for Williams. Obviously, Williams, a veteran with a ton of ability, and he just got a little bit overwhelmed by Adames. So I understand those who might say that his breakout year was this year, but I think the best is obviously yet to come from Carlos Adames.
Yeah, I agree, and I definitely want to see what he looks like against top opposition. But let's hear who is your final pick for this category.
Well, you just mentioned his name, Jaron Ennis. You know how I feel about Ennis, and as I've said, he reminds me so much of Roy Jones. It's one of my all-time favorites. From me, that's like the ultimate compliment. His natural gifts are just absolute. I talk about natural gifts a lot, and a lot of these guys are naturally gifted, but his gifts are just off the charts. The speed, the explosiveness, the reflexes, the athleticism, all that stuff. And he's a polished boxer, and he can end any fight in an instant, like Roy Jones could when he was at his best. I think he has a good chance to become number one pound for pound. He's like in a handful of guys, so I could see that happening too. Like the others here, though, we still have to see it. He needs that big name opponent to prove he can perform at the highest level of the sport. I would love to see him fight Terrence Crawford, and although I doubt that fight will happen anytime soon, you never know. I would fear for both of those guys, which is a huge compliment to Ennis, because I think right now Crawford is the best fighter pound for pound in the world. Anyway, in general, I hope Ennis gets a big fight next year, one or two big fights next year, because I want to see what he could do at the next level. I think those fights could end up being his coronation.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I mean, you could put this guy on the list every single year, because he's another one where you just don't know what the ceiling is. He could be breaking out toward another level next year, and then the year after that, and the year after that. Ennis looks like the kind of guy who could potentially be a world champion from 147 to 160 pounds. He's got the skill, he's got the size, he's got the power, everything. He showed the intestinal fortitude, the chin against Roman Villa earlier this year. He's just a special, special talent. We've known about him for so long, and to see it come to fruition in this way is amazing. I'm with you. I think he breaks out for real in 2024. Now, let's bring in our next guest. He is an undefeated two-time super middleweight world champion, also a fighter of the year candidate in 2023, in my opinion. One of the best in the game, David Benavidez. David, first, we all saw the big announcement today, PBC's new rights deal with Amazon Prime. As a PBC fighter, can you share your thoughts on this announcement?
Yeah, I'm just very excited about this announcement, only because, we were kind of in the dark for the past, couple of weeks, and, it's kind of unsettling when you don't know where your promotion company is going or what the plans are. And now that we got, basically got a plan, we got schedules going on, and we're just happy that we're right back on track, and, everything's going to continue like how it continued on Showtime.
In your opinion, what does this deal mean? What does it do for the sport of boxing?
I think it's just, to be honest with you, I think it's evolved into something more. The sport's evolving into something more. Just with all these outlets and stuff, I think it's just, this was just the way it had to go. I'm just happy that, we have a place that we could, still have our fights on, and, everything could continue like how it's continued. So we have a home now. We were homeless basically after Showtime, but now I guess we have a home.
David, it's been a couple of weeks now since the big win over Demetrius Andrade. I know you've gotten a lot of congratulatory messages. How does it feel to have the momentum you have right now?
I feel really good, man. Honestly, because I've been working so hard, and everything I said I was going to do, I did. I did it to perfection. And I just, once you believe in yourself so much, and then you actually do the things that you're saying you're going to do, it gives you more momentum to go and accomplish the things that are still left to be accomplished. There's a lot of things that are still left to be accomplished in this weight class. And like I said, the first thing it starts is with believing in yourself. And if you believe in yourself and you put in the work, then anything is possible. And, everything I said I was going to do, I've been doing. And the only thing left to do is, take the man out of the throne and take all his belts. I really think I could do that. I'm the man. I am the man, the only man to beat Canelo. So I'm just very excited that when I get that opportunity, we're definitely going to make it happen.
So that victory obviously was a big step forward for you. What do you think you proved with not only winning the fight, but in such dominating fashion?
I think it proves that I'm on a different level than what everybody thought I was. You know, a lot of people always said that I was a one-trick pony, or my footwork wasn't good, this and that. My defense wasn't good. But, every time I get a hard fight like this, I prove that I have defense. I prove that I have stamina, and that I also have that killer instinct. And honestly, these fights aren't hard. I expected this fight to be a little bit harder, but for it not being as hard as it is, it's really just saying for me that I prepare myself very well. And I still have a lot to show to the people. I haven't even showed 50% of what I could do. So there's just still so much I have left to do. And when people put me in those corners where I feel really uncomfortable, the best comes out of me. And, I'm starting to figure that out for myself, that these lights, that they don't affect me, that they only bring out the best in me. So, I'm just very excited to keep doing my job and keep proving my fans right.
We heard a lot after the fight, a lot of comments about, his footwork was improved, this was improved. And I know you work on things in the gym, but to be honest, I feel like all of those attributes are things you've shown in the past. Like there wasn't anything, I mean, you've had all of these attributes. Is it just the case of people now beginning to see it, in your opinion, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, and honestly, the big part about that is adjusting. That's a big part. And any top fighters, that's what he has to have in his set of tools. Sometimes you might have to do stuff that adjusts you to one certain fighter. But the thing about me is that I've seen so much, styles. I've seen so much, different type of fighters, even not only in professional boxing, but in the sparrings. That's really helped me a lot. And, I just keep using those and those past everything I've learned, and I keep adjusting and keep getting better and better as the time goes by.
Were you surprised that you ended it that early? I mean, it at least early on, it looked like, this might go into late rounds, or if you're when you're gonna have to break them down. But you got him out of there, halfway through the fight. Was that a surprise to you?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised because I just believed that Demetrius had a little bit more to offer, but I think it was just too much, the punishment. He was just taking too much punishment, too much pressure. And I think it was an accumulation of everything. I just wasn't stopping. I kept throwing shots. He was going into the later rounds, and I don't really think he believed in himself that much. And, he already knew it was going to happen. So I think that's why he ended up calling the fight himself. But like I said, I always tell everybody that the training camps are winning the fight. I had a hell of a training camp, worked my ass off in there. So I give it all up to the training camp and the team I had. We kept it pushing every single day. So I'm just very excited and very happy with the way everything came out. And I'm just looking forward to continuing this rise that I have right now and continuing winning.
You said that you hurt him with the left hook early on, that his eyes sort of got glassy or something like that. Was that in the first round? Is that when you kind of knew, like, I've got him?
Yeah, it was like in the first round, and it wasn't really even a hard left hook, to be honest with you. I think I just hit him right on the button, and that kind of messed him up. And the shots I was hitting him with some really good, solid shots. I mean, he was doing everything he could do, but I think that's really what kind of discouraged him a lot too, that everything that he was doing, he wasn't enough. He was throwing some good combinations, but if you really see in the replays of the combinations, I was covering up all of them. There were some shots, it might have looked nice to the camera, but I was really covering everything up. So he couldn't really do nothing in his own offense. He couldn't hit me with no combination shots. And, if you see that and you're getting hurt with shots, that really discourages you. And he wasn't really willing to leave it all in there 100%. So, yeah, what you guys seen happen, it was just too much power, too much speed, too much everything. It was just too much for Andre.
In your opinion, do you think what was the tougher fight? Was it the Andrade fight, or was it the Caleb Plant fight?
To be honest with you, I think it was Caleb Plant because the ring was bigger, and then also the referee, man, Kenny Bayless, it still kind of pisses me off. He was just letting him get away with too much clinches, just way too much. And so I think that's what made it a little bit harder, that it was the ring and the referee kind of working towards against me.
Yeah, you mentioned fighting under the lights. You went through that with Plant. It was a huge event. Did that help you in the Andrade fight?
No, yeah, that definitely did help me. I needed that whole experience, even just basically just shaking off the nervousness the first fight. I definitely was a little bit nervous, but after you go through that experience, you went through it, you know what to expect, and I definitely did need that. And now that I went through that, I'm just very comfortable in that spotlight now.
Very good. You got emotional during the press conference after your victory. What were you feeling?
To be honest with you, man, I get emotional in every press conference, every fight. It's just you just deal with so much emotions going through the whole fight. And for me, I'm an emotional guy. I'm not gonna lie. I really do feel it because this is really my passion. I really do love the sport. I love it with everything in my heart, and I put it all out in the ring. It's just that, just having my people there, my family, my mother, my father. I just wanted to thank them because I didn't really get a chance to thank them like that. And then just at the end of the day, you just got to be grateful for everything. You got to be grateful for the good times, for the bad times and the good times. And we're just being grateful. We're just giving thanks that day. And I'm just very happy for the way everything turned out.
You kind of alluded to this, and we've talked about your age. You're still only 26. Do you feel you can get even better than what we've seen already?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I could definitely get better. And that's what I'm doing. I'm getting better. Every single fight, I'm getting better and better. And also, like, on my own time, like I said, like, I really do want to leave a good, I want to leave a good history behind for my kids and, maybe for my grandkids and even for their kids. You know what I mean? I really do want to be the best in my generation. And I want to be one of the fighters that you never forget. Just like the fighters that I watched from back then. I watched Rocky Marciano, Sugar Ray Leonard, Mosley, Roy Jones Jr. These are fighters that make a big impact on their generation. They're never forgotten. And as I'm looking at it right now, I mean, what else do I have? I might as well just reach for the stars and put all the work into it because at the end of the day, in 20 years, none of this is going to matter. If I don't put the work in, if I don't really actually put myself 100% and dedicate myself 100% to this, this is my only opportunity I have now. So I'm going to work extremely hard and, put everything into it. And then, like by the time I'm done, finished with my career, I'm really confident that everything I said I was going to accomplish, I would accomplish, and I'll leave a good legacy behind for my kids and for all my fans and people who looked up to me.
You mentioned making some tweaks. I think you mentioned getting a nutritionist or a chef or something like that, and certain things you've done. Do you feel like it's all coming together for you right now, being a professional outside the ring, sort of, and as well as inside the ring, it's all coming together at the right time for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just out of everything I've learned. I mean, I've been professional for 10 years. So obviously when you start off the career, you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what you're doing. You know how to handle it. So it's all with experience. I've paid for a lot of experiences. Chefs, strength and conditioning trainers, back, wasted so much money. But at the end of the day, this is giving me a good basically a good playbook of what I need. I know what works good and I know what doesn't work good at all. So now with the nutritionist, it's a big part of it. Strength and conditioning is another big part of it. My father's a big part of it. All these sparring partners are a big part of it. So what I always do is I don't try to save money on my training camps. I actually try to waste as much money as I can because in my head, it's all an investment to yourself and to your body. If you have a half-ass training camp, then you're going to get a half-ass fight. But if you pay the most money and get the best training camp, the best at everything, then you're always going to win no matter what. So it's that investment that you have to put. And that's what some fighters that they don't really understand, that at the end of the day, you're investing in your career. So you have to put as much as you have to waste as much as you're comfortable as wasting. Strength and conditioning, it all plays a big part of it. And I think you guys have really seen that, everything that I invested in, it really has, impacted me a lot. So, we're just going to keep going this way and keep doing the things that I've been doing.
David, looking ahead, we want to give you a chance to make this case one more time. Why should you and Canelo be the next fight?
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't even got to say nothing no more. Everywhere I go, especially this morning, I was looking on Instagram and they were talking about Canelo's next 3 opponents in May. They said Charlo, what's his name, Munguia, or Crawford. And then I go look at the comments, and most of the comments are like, man, we don't want to see that. We want Benavidez. So I don't even feel like I have to make a case anymore. The people are already saying, this is a fight we want to see. We don't want to see anything else. So, I mean, now that I got it to that point, and if they don't want to give it to me still, then I'm going to still keep making a name for myself. If we can't make that fight happen with Canelo and he goes with Munguia or he goes with Crawford or whatever, then we're going to try to make a fight happen with Charlo. Like I said, I'm going to give Canelo room. I'm not going to give him any room to run anymore. You know what I mean? And that's just how it is. And at the end of the day, the people just want to see the best fight, the best in the division. And that's what it is. That's the case with me. I'm the best in the division. I've been cleaning it up. And I'm going to continue cleaning it up until they give me the shot. And, I'm not going nowhere.
Well, what challenges do you believe Canelo would present that maybe you haven't encountered before?
A lot of different challenges. He's the best for a reason. But like I said, when you're a fighter, like say for instance, I studied Demetrius Andrade. When I get to studying him, there's a lot of stuff that he does that I know how to be prepared for. So once you prepare for that, the whole camp, your brain is firing off on different ways. You're telling yourself you have to be ready for this, you have to be ready for that. And what this does, it creates, it makes you want to be better, makes you want to be ready for this. And especially if you embrace challenges, you're not scared of challenges, you're going to be ready for it. But if you're scared of challenges, then that might work against you. But for me, like I said, I'm ready for whatever challenge Canelo brings me. This is what I love to do. I'm not scared of nobody. And, we might take some shots. I'm not going to lie. We might take some hard shots. But at the end of the day, if you're a warrior, you're going to walk through the shots. You're not going to tell yourself that there's not no giving up. And that's the type of fighter I am. I'm not going to give up for nobody. And if it's going to be two men go to war until one of them gets knocked out, then that's what it's going to be. I mean, like I said, this is going to be the hardest fight of my career for a reason. But the glory just outweighs everything else negative. You know what I mean? So it's just, once I beat this guy, I think my name will live in the history books for a long, long time. And that outweighs anything else, anything negative. You know what I mean? So I'll train as hard as I can to get for this fight, and I'll be ready for anything that Canelo does. And when that time comes, the ones who are really going to enjoy are the boxing fans, because this is going to be a hell of a fight.
You kind of led me to our next question. What would a win over Canelo mean, for you and your career?
It would solidify me that I'm the best super middleweight probably in history, because there's been no other better super middleweight than Canelo. So, I mean, that already alone it's worth everything, because the positive of this fight outweighs the bad. If I lose, then fuck it, I lose, and whatever. It doesn't really matter to me. But if I win this fight, then I'm the greatest super middleweight of all time. There's no comparison. There's no, for somebody to say I'm not, you know what I mean? So, I'm willing to take that. I'm willing to take that risk, so I'm going to work extremely hard. And after I beat this guy, I'll be the greatest super middleweight of all time. And then I'll go up and then I'll try, start my conquest at 175. And then after 175, I might go up to cruiserweight. So, there's a lot of planning to be done in the future. You know what I mean? I knew this moment was going to come, and we're just ready we're ready to handle it however way. We're going to work extremely hard, and when that fight comes, we're going to be ready for that.
You mentioned Jamal Charlo as a potential opponent if you're unable to get that Canelo fight next. Is there anyone else on your hit list?
To be honest with you, probably no, just Charlo. If there's no Charlo fight, then I don't know, whoever else. I really don't care. I'll fight anybody.
Is David Morrell on your hit list? Is he on your radar?
Yeah, David Morrell is on there. He's a clown. All he does, I try to give him his respect, and every time I go on there, he's there trying to talk about me. David Morrell, that he says I'm ducking him supposedly, but when he tried to take that fight against the guy from Kazakhstan, we're trying to make that fight happen, he was nowhere to be found. Ronnie Shields says that he wasn't ready. And then Bivol offers him a fight, and he ducks Bivol too. So I don't know. He's over here saying that everybody's ducking him, but when people want to fight him, he's nowhere to be found. So we could fight David Morrell too, so I can shut his goddamn mouth up. He talks too much, but I'm ready for whoever, man. Like I said, I'm a real fighter. I'm not ducking nobody. I'm ready for whoever.
You kind of alluded to it, but there seems to be some real bad blood between you and David. Is it? I mean, where does it stem from? Where did it begin?
No, it's not no bad blood at all. I don't know. He's just saying that he could beat me. That's it. I don't even know the guy. I mean, I don't know him at all. If he says he could beat me, fine. I really don't care. I know exactly. I mean, this is what these guys have been saying back to back. Everybody says that they could beat me. Everybody says that they could beat me. I suck. I have no footwork. I have no defense. I have this and that. When I beat the shit out of them in the ring, they have nothing to say. So, I mean, I'm not worried about David Morrell. I'm not worried about nobody else. I could beat. When these guys are ready to fight, we could make that fight happen. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, there's no bad blood. I don't even know the guy. He thinks he's good. He has 8 fights. He dug Bivol. That was a big fight. Why, if he's so confident in his skills, why did he not take that Bivol fight? Bivol's willing to fight him. So I'm just like, it's whatever, man. Like I'm ready to fight whoever, whenever. It's no problem to me.
David, in closing, you've had a huge 2023. I mean, likely a fighter of the year candidate of these two fights. Can you top it in 2024?
Yeah, I think we definitely can. Like I said, there's a lot of opponents to be beat and a lot of mouths to shut, and we're gonna keep doing what we're doing. Like I said, I always do what people say I can't do, and like I said, I'm the best, and I'm gonna clear the division out. Whatever division I'm in, that's exactly what I'm gonna clear out. I have absolute confidence in myself and my skills. So let's get it. Whoever wants to bring it, let's bring it.
Well, we can't wait. David, we want to thank you again for joining us. We want to congratulate you on that tremendous performance against Demetrius Andrade. Of course, wishing you a happy holidays, you and your family, and looking forward to seeing you in 2024 on Prime.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
Congrats.
That's going to do it for this week's episode. We want to thank David Benavidez and Robert Guerrero, of course, for joining us. And we want to thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Don't forget, Saturday night, PBC on Showtime returns at 9 p.m. Eastern Time with 4 high-level bouts. And also, don't forget to check out the streaming on Showtime YouTube. 3 more bouts beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So great evening of action this Saturday. Make sure you watch all of it. And of course, we certainly will, and we'll be here to talk about it on the next episode of the PBC Podcast.